to introduce and be here with your wonderful star, Huy Quan.
Everybody, I hope they didn't tell you that Tom Hiddleston is going to make a surprise appearance. It's just me.
I told them a little bit beforehand, I'm a little biased as a fan of yours because anytime you ask your fellow actors about you, they get very excited to talk. Tom is very generous, loves to talk about working with you. But I would love to start with how you ended up in Loki. Because I know Tom had said that someone had the idea to ask Huy to be in the series, and Tom's like, someone call him before he gets booked, because it was in the midst of everything.
It was incredible. First of all, how many of you have seen the entire series, or is it? Oh wow! Okay, cool. Okay, so I don't know if we're gonna get into spoiler territory, but. Yeah, our casting director, Sarah Finn, God bless her, she was also the casting director for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And when she was casting OB, she saw our movie and thought I was perfect for it, and she called Kevin Feige herself. And luckily, Kevin agreed. And one day, my agent told me that, you're gonna get a call from Kevin, which I've read, in the past. I've read actors talking about it, so I was super excited, but I didn't know what it was about. And sure enough, my phone rang, and Kevin started telling me how much he enjoyed my performance and, the movie Everything Everywhere. And I was driving at that time, and I remember I was getting emotional. Here was the biggest producer on the planet. Telling me he liked me, and I said, Kevin, can you give me a few seconds? I had to pull the car over because I couldn't see where I was going. And then he invited me to join the MCU family. He told me about OB, and I was super excited because it was during the pandemic that I saw season 1, and I thought it was just one of the best shows on television.
Did you have the Oscar at that point, or was it still in the midst of everything?
No, I did not. This was 2022. In April, our movie had just came out. But it was only playing in Los Angeles and New York, and it was Tom Hiddleston told me that when Sarah called them, they said, you better make an offer right away because he's going to get booked very quickly.
Exactly.
But it was one of the happiest time I had on the movie set.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We all would love to get a call from Kevin Feige if we were in a lucky position like yours. I told this wonderful audience before, I spoke to Tom Hiddleston earlier this year for a piece, and he was so excited to tell me about you coming to set. Can you tell this group about kind of your surprise first day? He mentioned that you came up right off a plane to set in London, but you didn't expect to jump in, and you graciously decided to participate.
Yeah, the timing worked out really well. I was shooting American Born Chinese for Disney Plus at that time. And once when I was done, I literally got on a plane the very next day and flew to London. And I showed up, and I was just so excited, but I hadn't, I wasn't prepared. My mind frame was still with American Born Chinese. And they were rehearsing at that time, and they invited me to join in on the rehearsal. And I remember I was so nervous and I'm not very good at cold readings. And I hadn't really quite dived into the material at that point. And I joined the rehearsal, and I remember I was messing up the lines. I was jumping their lines, and I did a really bad job. And I looked up, and it was a room full of people with our writers and directors, and Tom and Owen Wilson. and I was so afraid that I would get fired because I can see them thinking, oh my gosh, did we find the right actor for this great role?
That is not true. Just because Tom said the opposite. He said we were so impressed with that he decided to join the rehearsal. Because I mean, I am not an actor. I can't imagine what that's like. Especially Marvel's pretty secretive with scripts. So I don't know if you had your whole.
Yeah, they were very secretive. So I was only able to read the episode 1 at that time. And I was really nervous, and I remember Tom was sitting next to me, and I reached over, grabbed his hand, and I said, Tom, I'm so sorry, that was a really bad performance, but I promise you, I will get better, I will get ready, and that's exactly what I did.
Yes, I love it. I'm glad that I had a little info for you guys that Tom would have countered that. One of the things I love about your work is the physicality you bring to roles. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, what you got to bring to OB, what you love about the character, and kind of what you got to make your own?
Well, for OB, it was less about the physicality of it. Unlike Wayman, who I played 3 different versions, I wanted to make sure that they you know, the audience can tell the difference. For me, OB, when I read Loki, the script, I fell in love with this character right away. And there was something familiar with him that I couldn't quite pinpoint. And then I realized that I know this character. I know him. He's young, he's really passionate, and he loves tinkering with gadgets. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with somebody like that, but I see nodding, so yes, Data from the Goonies. And once when I recognized the connection between these 2 characters, I went back and I watched the Goonies again. And I tapped into that kid I used to be. And I tried to recapture his energy and his enthusiasm. And once I was able to do that, it became very clear to me who OB would be and how I would want to play him. So OB is kind of, my imagining of Data all grown up and, living out his dream job. It was a long time. So, when I watched it again, one, it brought back so many wonderful memories. And second, it's incredible how a movie that is more than 35 years old, but it still holds up. And it was wonderful to revisit that. And it was something that I really needed in order to do justice to this incredible character that I was trusted with, Obi.
I mean, most of you know Key was in 2 pretty seminal movies as a kid. Did you learn anything that early, young, that has stayed with you as far as like what you do with your skills as an actor? Did anything kind of sink in? One of my favorite stories is that Key learned to swim from Harrison Ford while filming Temple of Doom, which is one of my favorite things. But not that you're swimming in every movie, but is anything you learned as an actor, as a young actor, that you've kept with you, or? I think
I learned very quickly that the success that I was able to enjoy in the past doesn't necessarily translate to a successful future. And you know how you hear people say this all the time: you're only as good as your last movie. Well, at that time, my last movie was The Goonies, and very quickly I realized that making the transition from a child actor to an adult actor was very difficult. And as I entered adulthood, I tried so hard to manipulate and to have some sort of control over what my future looked like. And given the very unique industry that we're in, a lot of times you don't have the control. As an actor, you're at the mercy of casting directors and filmmakers and producers. So I knew I didn't have much control, but what I did know was that I needed to be prepared for it. And that meant while I was having all these free time, I enrolled myself in film school and I tried to learn everything I could about this industry. in terms of how a movie is put together, also looking at it from a cinematography's point of view, an editor's point of view, the importance of sound design, costume design, productions, in basically every department. And my education didn't end when film school was over. It continued when I started working behind the camera as an assistant action choreographer. And luckily for me, I was being taught by some really talented people, and I learned how to, for example, choreograph a great fight sequence and how to tell a story with fists and kicks. And I was just doing what I needed and preparing myself, hoping that one day I can use all that knowledge that I've accumulated up until that time. And little did I know, I did exactly that when I walked in the room and auditioned for the Daniels for Everything Everywhere. And I used everything to convince them that I was perfect for that job. And it all came handy.
Right. Is it fair to summarize that do we have some actors in here, right? Yes, I was hoping so. That hearing from you, it just seems like finding ways to make yourself valuable no matter kind of the circumstance. If it's acting or if it's something else with the crew, which I think is a great example. One of the things I feel like you said about Everything Everywhere with your action ability is the fanny pack sequence was like 2 takes, is that right?
Yeah. It was a tough scene to shoot. Normally a fight sequence like that would take a week. But we shot it in 1 day. And that means like being as prepared as you can. And that's, I worked with our action team. And also, of course, having that knowledge from my days behind the camera was a huge advantage going into that.
Yeah, do you have advice for performers who maybe are a little hesitant to get into action, like just ways to kind of be more comfortable with those skills?
I mean, for me, a lot of times, confidence is a big thing to me, but you're not always going to have that. And one great way to boost your confidence is to learn as much as you can and to be prepared, as prepared as you can. For example, when I landed the role of Wayman, and having not acted in more than 20 years, I was not confident going into that. But I was smart enough, I guess, to get a lot of help. So if anyone who wants to go into acting, in action, for example, watch as much action movies as you can and practice and go to classes. I did that for many years. I grew up watching Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung movies, and I'm a huge fan of those movies.
There's a lot on YouTube too. I'm a huge fan of fight choreography. Obviously I don't do it, but there's a lot of great YouTube out there. I think there's some good BTS of Everything Everywhere too. Coming back to Loki, because that's why we're here, was there one kind of dazzling moment about walking onto a Marvel set, or one kind of element that you just kind of luxuriated in being there? Because I think what's great about Loki is that it's different. Every Marvel piece has its own place in the universe, but I love how Loki just is sort of different in the tone and the pace.
Yeah, to me, Loki it is different. It's not your average, superhero television show. To me, it's a great character piece. It's about Loki's journey on self-discovery and also finding friends in unlikely places. And one of the things that I really love about Loki is that, even someone like Loki who started out being really selfish and being bad, and only had one goal in his life, which was to be on the throne, to go from that and to make the ultimate sacrifice. I loved it. So going into this, I knew that I was going to be a part of something really special. And my first day on set was that scene you see Ouroboros coming down from the ceiling and meeting Loki and Mobius for the first time. Now, I assumed that I would walk on set with a lot of green screen around me, but that set was fully built. Everything that you see was practical. There was zero visual effects. and I was utterly surprised. And it kind of brought me back to the days when I worked on Temple of Doom and Goonies, and because all those were practical sets. In fact, we did that, you know, our production designer, Casper, who also directed episode 3, he built all those incredible sets. And as an actor, it's great to be able to walk on it, to feel it, to see it, to smell it, and touch it, all of that. And it takes, you know, less imagination. Then you can just focus on your character and on your dialogue.
Right. Marvel is strict, and I think most sets are now too, but I always liked actors if they kept anything, or if you got to keep a memento. Obviously we see your pen, but...
I tried. I wanted to keep the TVA guidebook because my character wrote it. And I wanted it so bad, and they said no. And in fact, it's incredible how, you know, the great length that they go to keep everything, because they do a count at the end of the day. And I was really disappointed. And it was not until I won the Oscar, I got something really special delivered to me. And it was the Tempat that we used with a little, you know, inside a tube that you see in the Old Boys set. And I got some wonderful cards from Kevin Feige, Kevin Wright, our showrunner, and the entire creative team. So that was really cool.
That's pretty great. That's a good keepsake. We love flowers, but that's pretty good. Just win an Oscar, and Marvel will send you a piece of the set.
I guess that's what it takes to keep a prop from the movie.
Or like when it wraps, because I think Chris Hemsworth said once the Avengers were wrapped, then he got a replica of Mjolnir, if I pronounce that correctly, yes. I think, again, not everyone has seen the whole show, but can you kind of talk about Obi's arc? And I feel like it's open-ended, so and what's great about some of the Marvel characters is they can cross over. Like, what can you say about, you know, what you hope for him and if he would maybe?
Well, fingers crossed we'll get to see more of him, because I love him so much. And it's really cool to see how you have this guy working in the basement of the TVA for more than 400 years by himself 24/7, and yet, you know, he still goes to work with such passion and enthusiasm. That is something that I certainly learned a lot from. And then also to have him finally have some friends in his life. That was really cool. So hopefully, you know, if I were to let my imagination run wild, I would say, you know, he would start going up to the first floor of TVA and mingle with his friends more often.
At the very least, I was thinking, I'm like, we know there's multiverses in Marvel. There's plenty of reasons why we would need someone like you to pop up. Is there a wonderful person asked, you filmed in London, but which was the studio? It was
at Pinewood Studios.
That's what I was trying to remember.
We were there for 4.5 months, and as it is a tradition with all Marvel projects, they always schedule additional weeks for reshoots. So I was all ready to go back. I was excited. That was one of the projects that I've ever worked on that I didn't want it to end. So I wanted to go back, and then when they put this whole show together, they realized that we didn't need any more additional footage. So we became Marvel's first project that didn't have any reshoots. And that is something that I'm very proud of. We saved them a lot of money.
That's another reason. We got a note to Kevin Feige about Loki in the cast. That's so great. Was there anything like a favorite day on set? I know that's such a loaded question, but you know, without kind of going into spoilers, but is there something that kind of encapsulated everything you hoped you got to do as far as with the character, just being in a Marvel project with your co-star?
For me, it's never like one day or one episode. It's the entire journey. And honestly, being on this journey with Tom and Owen and Sophia and Eugene Cadero and Wumi, everybody on the show has just been incredible. Every day to witness the dedication, that feeling of not wanting to disappoint the fans. that and the hard work that Tom Hiddleston puts into this, and being the great leader that he is, the great actor that he is, that was something that I learned so much from. In fact, everything that I learned from Tom, I put it into that movie that I just did. And doing that movie, I kept going back and thinking, you know, how did Tom do this? How did Tom do that? And also working with Owen was one of the greatest joy, because he always comes up with this really cool and funny one-liner that would just light everybody up and bring laughter to everybody.
Yes, well, it seems like you've also, I mean, worked with a really killer cast. It's amazing that a lot of people from Temple of Doom are still working. A lot of people from the Goonies are still working. Michelle, I think, I got to interview Michelle during Everything Everywhere Run, and again, she could not say enough wonderful things about Key, and that you and your wife are particularly close. I'm hoping that I just like when people actually like each other and are also good together. So I'm hoping you and Michelle do more, you and Tom do more. You bring up your next movie. I was hoping you could tease a little bit about that, because this is a leading role for Key in an 87-11 action movie.
It's really amazing. It's a movie called With Love. It's for Universal Studios, produced by David Leitch and Kelly McCormick. And it's a theatrical release. It comes out a week before Valentine's Day next year. And we were just up in Canada for 3 months. It's a big action movie. And one of the things when I got offered this was I knew, because I grew up watching, great action movies from Hong Kong, and being a kid and watching that and knowing that they did all of their own fights, there was something really special about that. There was so much at stake. So going into this, I knew that was one thing that I wanted to do, was do all the fights myself. So I trained with a wonderful action team, and something that I'm very proud of is that I'm still, mentally I think I'm 21 years old. So I think I can do everything. And surprisingly, and I'm very proud that I can still do all the moves. But the only difference is I would wake up the next day and I would go, oh my God, my back!
I love that. Is there advice you have for actors, like in preparing both sides of it, like obviously knowing your lines, but also knowing the choreography? Is it two separate skill sets you work out, or how do you kind of handle both of those aspects?
It's very different. But also know that, a good fight scene needs to have a story. It can't just be fighting for, fighting's sake. Then it gets really boring very quickly. With Love, we have 5 big fight sequences. And going in, I knew that I wanted them to be very different. And each scene, each fight should tell its own story. And it's really, practicing and spending a lot of time getting in shape, staying flexible, and going in, because doing fight scenes, it's physically, it's very demanding. Whereas if you were to do an emotional scene, it's emotionally demanding. The scene that I did in Everything Everywhere All at Once, where I gave that, be kind speech, I was more exhausted doing that than I did a fight scene in one day. And it's just staying in shape while you're free.
Right, being prepared. I think that is, it's something I hear actors say, but it transfers a lot. Is there anything else you want to say about what's coming up, or Loki? I mean, I just hope that we continue on the character. I know we don't know what happens in Marvel's world, but I think we all want to see Key on the screen more. So
Thank you for showing up, and thank you for supporting everything I've done. Loki is a show that I'm so proud of. When we finished the show, I was so anxious and so excited to go out and tell everybody about it. And then, of course, as you all actors know, we had a big strike for 6 months where and that was when it debuted on Disney Plus. So if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It's really a wonderful show, and we made it with the audience in mind, with the fans in mind, and going into this and knowing how big that fan base is. That was something. There was a lot of pressure in that, but I like to think that we delivered on that, because reading all the wonderful comments and hearing the reaction, it has been so positive, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, season 2 is pretty tremendous. I hope those that are experiencing it for the first time finish. And I just want to say, he does have an Oscar, but he doesn't have an Emmy.